Okay, good to see everybody. Thanks for coming. First question you might have is, why am I dressed as a civilian today? And there's a very logical answer for that, that while it might be Friday for the average American, today is a Monday for us. So this is a day we don't practice. The guys are off, and the coaching staff is busy game planning for this next opponent and getting ready for tomorrow's practice, which will be a Tuesday practice for us. So we have to shift our mindset and our thinking this time of year in conjunction with Maction, which we're very excited about. Rewinding to the road win over Bowling Green, which seems like a long time ago now at this point, but I thought we matched up physically at most positions, with a few exceptions here and there, and that was a big goal for our team holistically going in that game, knowing that BG had some pretty impressive athletes in all three phases of the game, and we knew that we had to do a great job matching up with those guys. Thought it was our best defensive performance of the season from start to finish. We were able to make them one-dimensional. We got them into a bunch of third and mediums and third and longs, which they were not as comfortable with. They ended up being just 4 of 16 on third down and 1 of 4 on fourth down. Some of the fourth down stops that we had were really impressive, fourth and shorts, that we were able to get knocked back and get off the field. We had the 2 turnovers, one of which was Red breaking the NCAA record for forced fumbles, which was great to see. Bowling Green punted 7 times and gave us a lot of good field position. So huge credit to our defense for making all that happen. It was great to see our offense get off to a fast start. We were able to march right down the field and score quickly and sort of set the tone for the entire afternoon. We had an explosive pass that led to another score early in the game. And then at times we sputtered a little bit, and even with some of that good field position that I mentioned, it wasn't until Red's turnover and Jalen McNair's return that we were able to get some really good field position and then punch it in to go up 21-0. So we ran it for 146 yards, which is a good day. We had a few explosive runs. I thought we pass protected well against a good front 7, but we were only 3 of 13 on third down and 0 for 1 on fourth down. So our total first downs weren't great. Our time of possession wasn't great. And as you look down the home stretch here with some really good opponents coming up, starting with this Central Michigan team that we'll travel to, as well as likely change in weather conditions and all those things, we really need to address some of these issues offensively here in the coming days and try to stay on the field longer and keep drives alive and ultimately score more points. Special teams was really a tale of two cities going in. We knew that Bowling Green had some really, really explosive returners. I thought we punted the ball well. I thought our punt coverage was excellent. We ended up with a very good net punt for the day. Of course, we had the really beautifully executed punt return for a touchdown in the third quarter, which sort of put the game out of reach. I thought our effort across the board was very good, but there's some technique issues, some full speed decisions that we didn't make very well, particularly on kickoff coverage. Some of our kickoff placement wasn't where it needed to be, and then on kickoff return, that one unit seems to be a little bit of our Achilles heel. We had some opportunities to create some explosive returns and just quite frankly didn't execute well enough to make that happen. We also had a botched snap on a field goal. At that point, it wasn't really a field goal that mattered all that much, but of course, as you look down the home stretch here, everything matters. So we've got to make sure we're executing. This little mini bye that we're in right now was very helpful. It gave us a couple extra days before this very challenging stretch here to get reorganized, to take a little bit of a look at ourselves, even though we didn't have quite as much time as a true bye week. Get a few guys less reps during a couple of these modified practices that we've had, and now approach game week with a good mindset and ready for some big challenges beginning with this Central Michigan team. I'm really, really impressed with Central Michigan for a number of reasons, and this goes back to my days at Ball State where we had some really great matchups with these guys. I've always felt like they've had great tradition in their football program. I've always felt like they've had a strong commitment to football there. Their facilities have always been very good and seem like they continue to get better. There's always been strong campus support, strong alumni support. You look at something, for example, like their field and their stadium. Both have multiple name designations, including one for a legendary coach that they've had there. And that shows to me that people care. People have stepped up to support the program, made an investment in football at Central Michigan, and it shows because they're typically very, very competitive. More recently, it's impressive that they were able to maintain their roster through a coaching change. They had relatively low transition in the transfer portal. And this new staff that's come in, there's clearly been a lot of buy-in because you see this team in all three phases, and they're really playing an inspired brand of football. They've also got an identity, and when you watch them, you see that identity and a cohesive, complementary style of football in all three phases. I mentioned playing inspired football. This is a team that plays really hard in all three phases, and it shows. Their effort, their passion, their energy shows on the video. On offense, they run the ball effectively from a variety of personnel groupings, but they're extremely efficient in the passing game. They're like sneaky good in the passing game and complete a high percentage of throws, create a lot of explosive plays through the passing game. On defense, they're very aggressive. They're flying around. They bring up a high percentage of pressure, and then they're very sound in the kicking game. And they're going to make sure that their protections are sound, their coverage is sound, and that they're certainly not giving up any explosive plays in the kicking game. So that plan by the new staff there has really yielded some impressive immediate results. They've had some close wins this season. They've been in some other close games. So I think this staff is really doing an excellent job. I mentioned their special teams and how sound they are and how it allows them to play complementary football. I'm always impressed with not only well-coached and high-effort special teams, but players in particular that jump out and really, really excel at what they do. And one guy for this team that I'm sure is an unsung hero is their long snapper, number 30, Ben Pratt. This guy is just money every time he snaps the football. And to a point where watching all of their PATs and field goals this year, I think I counted one or two where the holder didn't catch the ball with the laces perfectly out. So the efficiency of this guy's snaps, his attention to detail, and how he allows that unit to be successful is really, really impressive. So I thought he deserved a little love. Their kicker, Cade Graham, we saw a great kicker last week. This is another guy who's only got one or two misses on the season. Very accurate, really good rotation. Pretty much guarantees them 3 points when they get to the red zone. And on his kickoffs, you could tell he's putting the ball where it's supposed to go. And even when they're not touchbacks, you see 4-0 plus hang time, which makes it extremely difficult to return a kickoff, even if it's in the field of play. Two really good, solid returners. The punt returner, number 15, Span, bigger, physical guy. He's a fifth-year senior. And their kick returner, number 5, Biggins, is another big physical runner, another fifth-year senior. You could see that they play a lot of their starters on special teams, guys that are starting linebackers and safeties and so forth that are also playing on 1 or 2 units. So it's clearly an important part of what they do. On defense, I mentioned how hard they're playing. They're a 4-down front. It's a very, very active defensive line. They'll rotate some different guys through there to keep them fresh. Their defensive coordinator has a defensive line background, so you can tell that that's his expertise, and those guys are really, really responding. They bring a high percentage of pressure on base downs, so it could be 1st and 10, 2nd and 7 or 6, and you're going to see inside pressures, outside pressures, bringing the corner, trying to be disruptive to the run game on those base downs. A lot of one-high safety looks, so even when they're not bringing pressure, they're going to try to outnumber in your box and trying to make you one-dimensional there. They've got a big D tackle, number 98, Decker, who's very active. They've got an excellent defensive end, number 97, Heldman, who's got 5.5 sacks. And I mentioned you'll see a lot of different players rotating through for them. I think both corners, number 6, Carroll, and number 3, Des Fernandez, are excellent cover men, and they feel very comfortable matching those guys up on your outside receivers. Their will linebacker, 42, Kwiatkowski's their leading tackler, and all of their linebackers are seniors, and you can see those guys are all very physically developed. They'll jump into some 3-down fronts. They'll do that when they can get you into 3rd and medium or 3rd and long, but they'll also do it in some short yardage, down in the red zone and in goal line situations, and they're often moving out of that 3-down front, so that gives us an extra element to prepare for with their defense. I mentioned their offense earlier and just how impressive they are. This is a really, really neat unit to watch because I think they're executing at a very, very high level, and it's the first year in the system. You can tell these guys are extremely well coached. They present a lot of challenges. They're a team that runs it 70% of the time and jumps into a lot of multiple tight end sets, a lot of different cadences, a lot of different shifts, a lot of different motions. They'll mix in some hard count and different things to challenge you. They'll check plays. But there's some really, really thoughtful, well-timed play calling, and that's allowed them to get off to some fast starts. They're outscoring opponents. This is including 2 Power 4 teams. They are outscoring opponents 69-34 in the first quarter. The offensive line plays very physical. They really roll off the ball. They do a great job with their gap schemes and their zone schemes. I mentioned multiple tight ends, and they have a true fullback that they can put in the game. The quarterback, number 2, Joe Labus, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, he's a highly efficient passer, and they don't throw it as much as other people do, but he is completing a high percentage of his throws. He's very accurate. He gets the ball out on time, and when you're so geared up to stop the run game, some of the just little subtle things they do, like a screen and go, or just a basic play-action pass, have allowed them to create some explosive plays in the passing game and, again, get off to some really good starts in games. And he's only thrown 2 interceptions in 9 games. So I think that's what happens. People get so geared up to stop the run and load up the box that they get a lot of one-on-one looks on the outside, and they're able to take advantage of those with some really accurate downfield throws. Early in games, again, the play calling is impressive and challenging. They've come out and done some just little subtle things like a fake reverse against UMass that went for an explosive play, a screen and go against Western Michigan that went for a big play, a play-action pass against Eastern Michigan early in that game that went for a 60 or 70-yard gain. So they come out, they're well prepared, and they seem to execute extremely well early in games. They have another quarterback, number 7, Angel Flores, who's basically built like a running back, and when he comes in the game, it's a high percentage of run, almost wildcat type stuff. He missed the Western Michigan game last week, but another quarterback, number 10, came in and did some of the same things for them. So they've obviously got some depth at that position, and they weren't willing to just shelf what they do because of an injury to number 7. You got to figure with the extended time that 7 will be back for this week. So really big challenge for us. This is an offense that limits your possessions. They control the clock. They stay on the field. They move the chains. And again, when they get down in the red zone, if they're not getting 7, they've got a kicker that can certainly get them 3. So this is going to be a really big challenge for us in all 3 phases of the game. Another big road trip for us, night game. So we're going back to that kind of schedule. We've got to get used to the adjustments to our weekly prep here. So a lot of things to contend with, but I think our guys are in a good place and excited about the opportunity, and hopefully we'll be ready to go to put our best foot forward.
Any updates on injuries? I saw Taquan come out, Tabanzi came out a few times, Deion Crawford, corner Cointez.
Keontez Bradley.
Keontez, yeah.
So most of those guys are fine. I would say Deion is probably the one that's the most questionable at this point. He's certainly working hard to get himself back, but the other guys that you all mentioned, I anticipate will be ready to go. Jake Tim is also making some progress. He held up fairly well in the BG game, and hopefully he'll be a little bit closer to 90% or so by next Wednesday.
You mentioned parity in the MAC a few weeks ago. 4 teams at 4-1. Is this what you expected?
I don't know if it's what I expected, but it's certainly the epitome of parity. I mean, that's one thing that our conference has always had, even going back to my days at Ball State when we had an East and a West. It always seemed like you had a couple marquee teams back then. I happened to be at Ball State when Northern Illinois was really at their peak and had Heisman Trophy candidates and nationally ranked teams. Toledo's always been good as long as I can remember. And then some of the other teams like Ohio U and Western Michigan and Central Michigan have had steady success. But this year it's really been a logjam. Coming out of September with the out-of-conference play, there were a lot of close games and teams with that were probably better than their records were indicating. And then, you look at all these close conference games, even this week, speaking of Ball State, they edged out a win over Kent State, and then Kent State had a chance to win the game down the stretch in a 2-minute drill. And so there's been a lot of those kind of games, and we've certainly been in a bunch of them, both out of conference and in conference. And you could easily see that continuing to be the case, not only for us, but in some of these other games that are going to take place.
Being a full 13-team league now without the divisions, how does that change the dynamic for Buffalo or any teams that you've coached? And does that feed in with the parity? Does the parity work against that or for that?
Yeah, I think so much has changed in so little time, not only in the conference, but in college football across the board. I mean, look, I got here less than 2 years ago. Buffalo was just starting an NIL collective, right? That started a few months after I got here. And a year later, now we're in a world of revenue share. And collectives are gone, right? And it's a whole new approach to NIL and rev share. You look at the league. The league has gone from a traditional East and West to now, a different scheduling model. And that'll continue to change next year when NIU leaves. I saw it change a little bit when I was here the first time with UMass coming into the league the first time they came in. So I think the only thing that's consistent is that things are ever changing. And The thing I've learned as a coach is you've got to continue to adapt. You've got to continue to grow and be open-minded. And something I share with our staff all the time is that we can't ever get too set in our ways, and you can never take anything for granted. And something that might have been consistent 5 or 10 years ago may not be in this new era of college football that we're in. So you've got to embrace the change. And if part of it is extreme parity in our league, well, as long as we're part of that parity, then I guess that's not all a bad thing.
Speaking of that, for so many years when you were in this league, this was an offensive league dominated by offenses. Everybody scored 30 points a game, right? In watching the last couple of weeks, a lot of MAC games, when did it become a defensive league? Do you agree? And why do you think that's changed?
Yeah, again, probably a lot to do with the nature of college football nowadays. Our roster has been thankfully pretty intact despite the portal, and Central Michigan's has been very much intact as they went through a coaching change this year. But you look at a lot of other rosters in the league, and there's a tremendous amount of change. I mean, how many programs have 50 or 60 new players on them this year? And so that's a lot of evaluating to do. That's a lot of speed dating to do when the portal windows open up. And you may hit it right, and you may not. I do think that some of us are probably getting better high school players than we may have. You know, a big part of our plan here is to still recruit a lot of high school players and develop those guys. And maybe some other teams at higher levels that are feeling the need to go and almost exclusively go in the portal. Maybe that's allowing us to develop some better defensive players. I've been really impressed with the defensive lines we've seen from pretty much everybody we've played this year in the conference. And some of those guys are homegrown guys. You look at the kickers. I don't know if I've ever seen a year where the kickers and punters have been this strong in the league, and maybe just more of those guys are available. So there's a lot of interesting shifting dynamics, and I think it's going to probably take a little bit longer to really figure it all out. I do think it's harder to build a program the way you used to in the old days. So when I was at places like Elon and Ball State, and I remember when Dave Clawson and his staff were at Bowling Green, and then when he went on to Wake Forest, the mentality was bring in high school players, redshirt as many of them as you can, and then ultimately field a team with as many fourth and fifth year players as you possibly can. And I do think now a lot of the fourth and fifth year players that you're seeing at times are not guys that originated in your program. They may be grad transfers or guys that are coming to play their last year of eligibility with you. So there's a lot of shifting dynamics, and as I tell our alumni and our donors all the time, we need to embrace this stuff because it's not going away. And but I will say this, and we've been spending a lot of time this week talking to our seniors and about them and their contributions. And the thing that I'm very proud of is, yes, we brought in a limited number of transfers, but each and every one of those guys has been such a good fit for our program, for our culture. They've been a really good fit on campus. A lot of them are in really high-end master's programs here at UB where they're taking advantage of the academic opportunities. Some of them have had internships in Buffalo where they've been immersed in the business community here. So they're not just coming here to play that last year of football. They're coming here for the right reasons and to be fully immersed in everything we're about as a program.
A year ago, you won the last 5 games after starting 4-4. Now 4-4, another win. Not to ask if you're going to win the next 4 games, but is there an element of your program that you think, that might be an annual feature of playing your best ball in November?
Well, every season is different, right? And I say that all the time in the off season, in the preseason, and as the season goes on. So, it's football, so it plays out differently. But there are certain things that we try to do to get to this point in the year and be in the position that we're in. We like to say play meaningful games in November. That's the goal of every college football team, to be at this moment in time and to still have a lot to play for. And we certainly do. And so to get to this point, a big part of it, I believe, is the ongoing growth and development of your players. Some of that is in the weight room. A big part of that is in the weight room, the strength and conditioning that goes all the way back to the winter and the summer, and what you continue to do strength and conditioning wise in season. How you practice, and making sure that you're conducting physical practices, intense practices that get you ready to play games in September and October, but also knowing that it's a long season and that you want to get to this point in the year and still feel fresh and feel healthy and feel like you have a chance to put your still play your best football. And I remember back to my first round of meetings with the players the first week I was here after I got hired in late January of 2024. And that was a consistent theme in some of the information that I got from those one-on-one meetings, was that they felt like they were just exhausted come this time of year. And that's nothing personal against anybody. That's just feedback that I have on paper from our players. And it was sort of music to my ears, because I don't think I'm Nick Saban or something, but I do believe in having a plan and being organized and being thoughtful in our approach. And something that I've always thought about organizationally and structurally is getting your team to November, and hopefully having a roster that's doesn't have 25 guys watching from the sidelines because they've had injuries, and in some cases injuries that occurred in practice, not in games. And look, some of that, broken bones and things like that happen in football, and some of that is out of your control. But what you're trying to avoid is some of the soft tissue injuries that come with a lot of wear and tear over the course of the season. And I always give credit to Ryan Horton and our strength staff. They do such a good job of pulling in all this data and then sharing it with me and our staff in sort of an elementary way that we can digest and understand, and then implement to some of the things that we're doing, whether it's for a specific player, like a Vic Snow that just goes and goes and goes, or in the team overall, scaling back a practice, going in uppers instead of full pads, trimming 5 minutes here or 5 minutes there. So we have a lot of conversations about those things, and a lot of those things are data-driven, as well as meetings with the Leadership Council. Hey, how are you guys feeling? How do your bodies feel right now? Here's the schedule, so you can wrap your arms around it and plan for what's coming.
2 questions on your punt return team. You had Bowling Green pinned on the goal line. How close was that to being a block? Because it looked like Connor Henderson might have been right there. And then for Victor Snow's touchdown, I believe that was a punt block coverage. How often are touchdowns made on punt blocks?
Yeah, great question. So the first punt that you're talking about, I'm not sure if Connor got a piece of it or not, but they were backed up. We did bring a block call, and the ball came off kind of funky. Maybe I should give our director of media relations a hard time for not putting it as because I think we're second in the country right now to Penn State in block kicks, and that would have made us first, or tied for first. So, but whether we got a pinky on it or not, we did bring some pressure there, and that ball did come out kind of funky. And it was a similar call on the one that we returned for a touchdown, and a lot of credit to Coach Mono and that unit for a high level of execution. But something I've always believed in is sometimes a block is your best chance to return it, because people have to hang in there and protect, and now they're not transitioning to coverage as quickly. Sometimes punt units do a good job of recognizing when a guy's in hold-up and getting out right away, and it actually makes it harder to hold up. So sometimes a block call is your best recipe for a return. And in that case, Ronell Davis and Eddie Pleasant, who were matched up on their gunners, both won their one-on-ones. So that helped. And then, to the credit of everybody on the unit, there are so many penalties on punt returns because somebody gets a little overzealous and blindside blocks a guy, or knocks down the punter. And officials, one of the things they're always looking for on these spread out special teams plays is guys on the ground. And if there are guys on the ground, more often than not, you're going to see a yellow flag accompanying it. So we spend a lot of time coaching how we block people at the finish to try to stay up and avoid those potential penalties. And right down to a man, everybody did such an exceptional job of high effort, but staying up off the ground, making sure that their helmet was in front of the guy's body, making sure their hands were in the right places. In some cases, screening, with sort of a non-aggressive style block to make sure that we didn't have any unnecessary penalties. And when you see a punt return like that come to fruition the way that one did, it's very satisfying as a coach.
CMU has 10 interceptions on defense. You know how they are producing these interceptions?
Good corners that can cover a lot of pressure, they force some errant throws. So I think one of the keys to this game, we need to run the ball better, no doubt about it. We've got to find ways to move the chains and stay on the field. But we have held up well in pass protection this year, and that was a big concern going into the Bowling Green game because they had some pretty scary edge players. And I thought Henry, despite being banged up in the game, held up well. Trevor held up well. So that's going to be that matchup. Our O-line against this very, very active D-line, as well as the high amount of pressure that they bring, is going to be a critical piece of this game.
And the quarterback you mentioned that was hurt, he's their leading rusher.
He is.
Do you know how? Have you noticed how they like to use their running game? Because they're one of the better running teams in the MAC.
So you saw the Bowling Green game. Imagine watching Bowling Green with all those multiple tight ends and shifts and motions and gap scheme plays and zone scheme plays, but now adding the quarterback to that mix, almost Wildcat style. That's essentially what they're doing. That's the thing that Bowling Green could not do, right? Because they had more of a pro-style quarterback in Drew Pine. These guys will run both of their quarterbacks. They're not afraid to do it. But again, when Flores comes in, you're going to see a lot of heavy sets and sort of old school football. Where it's push the pile and get 3 or 4 yards and move the chains.
So is this a situation where you expect Red or Mitch or a nickel to spy on their quarterback?
Well, one of the things we did last week against Bowling Green was, and Savion Brown, our nickel, played one of his best games against Bowling Green. We're going to need him to play well again, setting edges and also covering their tight ends the way he was able to do against Bowling Green last week. But obviously, the more they pack it in, the more we pack it in. And again, you can't get lulled to sleep because before you know it, with these guys, they're throwing one over your head. So we've got to get really good, consistent corner play this week as well. Their receivers are certainly a good fit for their system. So going to be a huge challenge for sure in all 3 phases. Oh, we got one more?
You mentioned Penn State earlier. With Khalil Mack, Sean Bolak, and most likely Red Murdoch in the NFL, do you think that could make you be a linebacker group? And then if Murdoch gets drafted, what effect will that have on the football program in terms of recruitment?
Well, we do take great pride in our linebackers, and we're so proud of Sean Dolak and what he's doing with the Rams right now, getting an opportunity not only to play on special teams but play some on defense. We've had pro scouts through on a daily basis to watch our practices, and some higher end personnel in some of these pro teams that have come here to see Red, and the feedback that we're getting on him has been very, very positive about his chances to potentially get drafted. And I'd like to think, a guy like Mitch Gonzer, who came here from Harvard and had 1 year left to play, and you see his productivity, you see how much he's enjoying what he's pouring into his last year of football at the college level is really great to see. And a guy like Deion Crawford, who I think is fortunately still got a couple years of eligibility left, and is certainly making a tremendous impact at this point in his career. We've got some younger linebackers that we're developing right now that we're excited about. We've got some linebackers that are committed that I can't talk about yet, but after they sign, we'll certainly be excited to talk about them. And I think some of that is that Joe Bowen does a great job coaching those guys. I think we've got a linebacker-friendly defensive system. We've had good defensive linemen that are unselfish and play really good team defense that allow our linebackers to do what they do and accumulate some good statistics. But it's all part of a bigger culture and part of playing good team defense. But we do pride ourselves on being sort of a Generation X mindset, blue collar type program, and you'd like to think that when you have that kind of mindset, that lends itself towards recruiting guys who are cut out to be good linebackers.
What was it like game planning against Khalil Mack?
Well, he was just a puppy when I was at Ball State. John Fuller and I, Paul Peck and I, we've talked about that game many times. That was when Khalil Mack was just starting to blossom as a defensive player, and that was a great back and forth game. I think we ended up winning 28-23 or something. Willie Snead, another, talk about under-recruited and a guy that blossomed into a great college player and then long-time pro career, caught a winning touchdown pass with, I think, less than 20 seconds left in that game. So that was certainly a rugged Buffalo team that we played that day, and I hope that we're a rugged Buffalo team too.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, thank you.